Good evening. I feel like I've been away for ages. So welcome to Kidlit Live with Arden Jones. That's me, obviously. Yeah, I'm really excited tonight. I have my lovely friend and local bookseller here. Her name's Natasha, and she runs the most amazing bookshop. It's called the Chicken and Frog Bookshop. It's just beautiful in there. There's books everywhere, children's books and adult books as well now. It used to just be a children's bookshop, but she has grown and it's just wonderful. There's just a lovely area where you can sit and just chill out and read a book. I just absolutely love it in there. So Natasha's going to be joining me in any second. So I'm going to be bringing her on. So I can't wait to chat to her. She did say, if anyone has any questions about anything that we speak about, you're more than welcome to send her a message via her social media channels or via her email, which is, I think, info@chickenandfrog.com or .co.uk. I need to check that. But if you go on her website, there is an email address on there. So I'm going to bring Natasha on now.
Hello.
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 Hi. I'll tell you, hi, how you been? But I see you so much. I know how you
Been
are.
like, don't.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Really good, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I've not done a Kidlit Live for
It's been
ages,
a
but
couple of weeks, isn't
yeah,
it?
it's really good. Yeah. So I was on holiday, and then someone postponed, but actually there was like some issues going on with one of my children, and then the following week we'll have had norovirus, so that didn't happen. So it's just been three weeks, but because I do them weekly, it feels like a really long gap.
Yeah.
Which actually next week I've got two, so
Nice.
one of them that booked in, we've managed to fit in, so we didn't, because otherwise I'm like totally booked up till October at the
That's
moment. So
amazing.
yeah, it's good. It's like people want to actually talk to me. I'm like,
Oh,
what?
quite
It's
right.
never
Of course they do.
lovely. Yeah. So I'm so glad that you've come on. I did a little intro to your amazing shop that I feel like I'm always in, and I feel like I'm probably really annoying because
No.
I'm always coming in, and Willow
Annoying.
is here, there, and everywhere.
I
But
love her. She's like a little whirlwind when she comes in.
yeah, she is that all the time. But yeah, so glad to have you on,
Thank you.
and so glad that you agreed to come on as well, because I think it's really important to be so like transparent about publishing in all sorts of areas. And like I feel like as a writer, we love our bookshops, but I don't think we all know actually what goes on behind the doors,
Yeah.
what actually really happens for, they're a huge part of the whole of the publishing world. So I just think it'd be so interesting to chat to you and just share your knowledge and experiences with everybody.
Lovely.
So, I mean, is there anything you wanted to say about the shop before we go into the questions, or
No,
you?
I don't think so. Let's go for the questions and see what happens. I'll probably
Yes.
go off on a
Okay.
tangent. I could talk about books in the bookshop for hours, so I apologise in advance for wittering. You'll just have to like do signals at me or something. Shut up.
We probably should have sorted something out beforehand. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, like owls.
I'll just let you. I'll just be sitting here like I'm interested, so I'll be happy for you to waffle on. But so the first question is generally what I ask everyone is like, I want to know the history. So why did you open the bookshop, and the name Chicken and Frog? Like, how did that come about?
So I'll do the name first because otherwise I'll forget to tell you. So the name is because we didn't want to call it Brentwood something, because you never know where you're going to end up in life. We'll probably always stay in Brentwood. We love it, but you never know. And we didn't want to name it after us just because, well, our names aren't that exciting. So it was like, there's a really terrible dad joke. Brace yourself. I can't even tell it that well, but never mind. So a chicken and a frog walk into a library, and the chicken says, "Buck, buck, 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 buck," and the frog says, "Read it, read it, read it." And when we were,
Didn't
I mean,
even
it's
know that.
awful. And when
No, I like them jokes, but I didn't even know that
did you not
joke.
know that one? So when we were,
I love a pun. If there's a
yeah,
pun
it's a
in
good
it, then
pun. It's a
it's.
good pun. And when we were, so Jim and I met when we were 16, and we were all at college together, and it was just one of those stupid jokes that we would tell each other. Because when you're a teenager, you just think you're really funny, don't you? So it was just one of those, and it just kind of stuck. So when we finally got to the point of, right, we're really going to do this then, like, what should we call it? What should we call it? And we couldn't decide. And it was Jim that said, we should call it Chicken and Frog. And I was like, yeah, that's good. I like that. There's
Yeah.
now actually a Chicken and Frog in, it's either Australia or New Zealand. They opened after us. And every so
Oh,
often we get messages on Facebook for them, and I'm like, yeah, we're on the other side of the world. We're not who you're looking for. It's really funny. They probably get the same. So yeah.
do you wonder why I'm replying to you in the middle of the night?
Yeah, what is going on? So yeah, so the reason we opened, I think we both come from families where stories are really important. So we were always read to a lot. We both went to the library like all the time. I grew up in Loughton, and I mean most Saturdays my parents would drop us at Loughton Library, me and my sister, and leave us there for a couple of hours, which I can't do anymore. But looking back on it, it was probably just quite good free childcare as well. But I loved it, and I had Loughton Bookshop, which is still there, and it was just an Aladdin's cave. And we were also, I know that both of us, we had grandparents that just used to tell us stories all the time. So it's always been a big part of our lives. And then when we were met, as I say, when we were 16, so just like a couple of years ago, it was just one of those things we always talked about. Oh, wouldn't it be lovely to have a bookshop of our own? And then, it just it just sat there in the background, and I always wanted to be a teacher as well, so I became a teacher. Jim became like a professional tech nerd. We got married, we had the kids, and then life was just ticking along, and it was all great. And then Jim was made redundant. I can't think when that was. That was probably about 20, yeah, 2010 maybe 2011, and he just couldn't find any work really, and it was a really tough time. And we were like, well, maybe this is some kind of sign. Maybe the universe is saying, oi, you said you had this dream and you've done literally nothing about it. Go on then. So we talked to the kids about it quite a lot, even though they were quite young, because we're just that kind of family. And they were like, yeah, you should do it, you should do it. And it was a big change for them because I'd always been a teacher their whole childhood. So it meant that I had all the holidays off with them. So that was going to
Mhm.
change. So it was a big shift. And we said we'd give it 4 years. We opened in October 2012, and now we're in 2023, and we're still there, and we're bigger than we were before. So we love it. We just love it. And it's about, obviously it's about getting people reading, but it's so much more than that. It's about creating a community hub. And like you say, like you do come into the bookshop a lot, and but we love that. So like we've become friends. I've got so many people that
Yeah.
I would now consider friends, and it's because of what I do. And that's such a huge privilege. And to know that there are kids that have been coming since they were, say, Willow's age, and are still coming in now that they're teenagers. That's amazing.
Wow, that is really
Yeah.
amazing, isn't it? Like, I don't think there's that many areas of like retail or anything like that that would happen. Like,
No.
because children grow with you because you offer everything there. Like for you, you've always been like, well, I moved to Brentwood before, oh, actually before you opened, but I feel like you was always there. Like, um, but so yeah, so the children go with you because they'll go in and then you've got the baby books and then there's all the ages and now you even do adult.
We do.
So like what made you just want to do children's books then and then move into having sort of adult fiction as well?
So I think,
Or not just fiction, adult books,
yeah.
sorry.
So I think, so originally the plan, the kind of like the dream had always been a children's bookshop. I think um, because I was a primary school teacher as well, and we both really love kids, and I think we probably just felt that we knew the most about that. And when we opened, we spoke to a few like reps and stuff, and at that time, quite a few bookshops were actually closing. So it was a really, on paper, it was not a good idea. So everyone said to us, if you're gonna do this, and you're mad by the way, but if you're gonna do it, it needs to be a specialist shop. If you try to open a general bookshop in the current climate, it probably won't work. And we were like, well, we've only been thinking about children's really anyway, so that worked for us. And also, the original space we got was a bit of a faff, so we'd found somewhere in Brentwood, who I won't say who it was because that's not fair, but they really messed us around. Um,
Mm.
and we were like weeks from when we were supposed to be opening. Most of the stock had been ordered, most of the furniture had been ordered, and we ended up pulling out. And then we had to find somewhere else because I'd already given in notice to go part time at school. all of those things. And it was like, God, what are we going to do? And the shop that we ended up in Ongar Road was tiny. I mean, really small. I now affectionately call it my book cupboard. And it was lovely, and it was a really good start for us, but it was really little. And we couldn't have had a general bookshop in there. We wouldn't have had space to get everything in. So we were there for 7 years. And then I was walking down Crown Street one day, which is where we are now, and I love Crown Street, and I've always loved it there. It's got a really cool vibe. It's only independent shops down there. Lynn, who owns French Quarter, had worked tirelessly to get it pedestrianised for years, which she managed to achieve. The woman's amazing, and that made a huge difference because it's somewhere that people can feel quite safe and kind of hang out. And I was just walking down there to go and see her, actually, and I noticed that Audio Tea, who used to be there, has closed down. And it's quite a big unit, as you know, because you've seen it. So I called the number that was on the board on the top bit of the building, and I was like, hi, I'm just outside Audio Tea and I can see that it's empty. Can you tell me what the rent's going to be, blah blah blah. And the agent was really off with me. He was like, no, we're not, it's not on the market yet. And I said, but there's a board outside. And he said, no, that's just for the office space upstairs, we're not interested. But when I want something, I'm quite relentless. So I was like, well, so I said to him, look, just take my name and number, and then if you change your minds, because I thought it was really weird, then we're on the list. I said, we've already got an established business in Brentwood, blah 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 blah. And I tried to sell myself, and he was like, fine, and he huffed and he titted, and I was like,
Oh
this
my
guy's a bit weird.
goodness.
And he went, oh, go and get a pen, like it was such an imposition. And he came back and he went, well, what's your name? And I said my name, and he went, Tash? And I was like, yeah. And I never introduced myself as Tash. I always introduced myself as Natasha. So it's only really when people know me that they tend to call me Tash. And I went, yeah. Anyway, it turns out that the agent's kids went to school with all of our children at primary school. And then he just went, oh, you can have it. When do you want to move in? So it was bizarre. It was so weird, but it was meant to be. So we stayed open in Ongar Road until Christmas Eve. And we opened in Crown Street on the 4th of January. So that Christmas holiday was
I remember that.
Yeah. It was just nuts. And we did a crowdfunder, and we said we would make it work anyway, but the crowdfunder really helped us, and people were, I think I cried quite a lot just because people were so lovely and supportive and generous, and it just helped us make that shift. And then we had stupid things like literally people carrying bookcases down Brentwood High Street to get it all in and ready. But we didn't take over the whole building. We just took over as you walk in. We took in the first bit, and we actually put a stud wall up where it goes into the other part of the shop because it just felt massive and quite scary. And I said to the landlord, I don't want the whole building, it's just too much. And he's a really lovely landlord, unlike my old one. And he said, no, that's fine, don't worry, we won't charge you for that bit, just have what you want, we'd rather you were in there than not. So we did that, and then obviously that was the January, and then we all went into lockdown in March, was it? Feels like a So that was a bit of a bind. It's a polite way of saying it, isn't it? It wasn't great, but and we started selling. We'd always ordered in books for adults for our customers that were just parents, because if it's in print we can get it, kind of thing. But we just never had adults books in the shop. And then what actually happened was our Waterstones in the High Street had closed completely because their landlord was being a bit silly. So I know it's really awful, but we kind of jumped on that opportunity, and we put in a couple of books, literally 2 billy bookcases for adults books to see what would happen. And we weren't really open properly then, but I was doing a lot of book tours on Zoom and all that stuff so people could see it, and it was going quite well. And then when we came out of lockdown, we were like, it would be quite nice if we could expand this a bit, but I don't know where we put it. So we were just faffing around, really. And then our landlords, luckily our Waterstones opened. And I would just like to say that as a caveat, because lots of people were saying, oh, you must be really upset that they've reopened. No, quite the opposite, because it's good to have choice for people. And their offering isn't the same as our offering, and their team is amazing. So actually the fact that they're back in the town, for me, is brilliant, which I know sounds a bit weird, but I think it's great. So anyway, the landlord just called me out of the blue a couple of summers ago and said, oh, we're going to make that end of the shop into a separate retail space, but you guys have got first refusal. So I was like, okay. So we had a look at it again, and I said, we haggled a bit about the price. I said to him, the thing is, if I take it, all I've got to do is take down the wall that I've put up, and we can move in, and I can
Mhm.
start paying rent for it like within a couple of weeks. If someone else takes it, you've got to do all of that work because there's no front door at that end, and it's going to cost you thousands. I'm obviously just very good at getting people, I don't know, they're just talking people into it. She was like, all right. So yeah, so we took it on, and again, poor Jim, honestly, anyone who knows my husband, he's a lovely man, and he's very, very laid back, because I decided that it had to be open within a couple of weeks because we had a massive event happening in Crown Street, and I wanted it to be open for that. And he was like, no, I think we should take our time and think about what furniture we're going to have. And I was like, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I got my way and we opened. So, and then we've got the upstairs as well, which we didn't really want because the stairs are quite steep. And I was like, I can't, like, to manage another level is quite tricky. But
Yeah.
actually, it's great because I'm allowed to sublet, and we've got two really small businesses, both local ladies, who have now got their businesses in our shops. So we've got Amber's Beauty Rooms, and we've got Jeanette, who is a dressmaker, and they've got space upstairs, and they wouldn't be able to afford Brentwood rent otherwise. So it's
Mm.
lovely that we can kind
Oh,
of house them too. They've got nothing to do with books, so it's a bit weird, but it works.
yeah.
You know, it does the job. So that was a very convoluted way of explaining why. So yeah, so the adults bit, I know. I'm generally speaking, I stop reading about young adult. But occasionally I read adults books. Kids books are best.
I would tend to go straight to a young adult book
Yeah,
for on my TBR, like that'd be what I'd
yeah,
pick up first. But yeah, I mean, I do read adult as well, but
yeah. I do
majority
as
of
well,
it
but
is
not as
young
much.
adult.
But what we've done when we first opened that bit, we had young adult and then we had adult, but we've actually mixed it in now, and it's working really well because adults are quite happy to read YA. And I do mean, when I say young adult, I mean proper gritty, where it's sweary and there's sex.
Yeah,
If it's kind
yeah.
of YA that's 12, 14 plus, that's in the other end of the shop. But once it gets to that end, there's, you know, a 16-year-old, if they're reading that kind of thing and it's quite, you know, hard hitting, then they can read adult. And an adult
Absolutely.
really likes it. It's almost giving permission to adults to read YA who may not pick it up because it's all mixed in. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to read this. So it's worked really well. And then we just
Well,
have
they
some
might not
really weird.
even know
No.
it's young adult. Like, I mean, I think before I really got into writing, I didn't realise that, you know, when I read, you know, embarrassingly, when I read like the whole Twilight saga when I was like 28 or whatever, I didn't realise it
Yeah,
was aimed at young. I just thought it was a
no.
novel. Like, I mean, I
Yeah,
might be,
exactly.
you know, maybe might just be me, but I feel
No, I
like
don't think so.
so many people think that it's a novel. You pick it up and you read it. Like, and what adult don't love just like remembering them teenage years? And I mean, they can be
Yeah.
awful. A lot of teenage years are awful,
Oh,
but
dear.
there's some great parts in there as well. And everyone wants to have that feeling again. That it's just, I love the young adult books for that. It really does give you lots of
Yeah.
happy, well, memories and feelings. And
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And yeah, it just worked really well. And we've done it a little bit differently, that end of the shop. So the fiction and the non-fiction are mixed together. And they're just in quite quirky categories. So we've got things like witcherature, nerd bait, food, glorious foods. We've kind of mixed it up a bit. But again, it's been really fun because people are finding things they may not necessarily have been looking for, to
hmm
kind of broaden their horizons. So yeah, it's quite nice. And it's got a very
yeah.
different vibe from the rest of the shop. That end of the shop is quite calm and darker colours and muted. And the kids' end of the shop is every colour you can imagine, as you know, and like lots of Lego around and, you know, really in your face. So but it's quite quirky still. So it still feels like Chicken and Frog, but it's just the smoking jacket version of Chicken and Frog.
Oh, I love that end of the shop as well. But generally, when I come in, I'm with Willow, so I don't get that much time at that end of the shop. Well, generally, I'm running between both. But I don't get time to look. But I absolutely love it in there. You walk it. I mean, I love just the whole shop. But when you walk into that other side, and there is just like this calmness that you
Mm.
feel, you've just done it so well that the furniture is perfect, and to do it in, like you said, in that small amount of time, and to get it as lovely and welcoming and as calming and just bookish as it can be is just amazing.
Oh, thank
Really
you. I do
amazing.
love it. Love it.
Yeah. Oh, so as well as obviously just getting to read probably lots of books and just seeing all the lovely books out there, what's for you the most rewarding part of being a bookseller?
It's getting someone who's not a reader or someone who's fallen out of love with reading, which does happen. I think it happens to everyone at some point in your lives for loads of reasons. It could be that sometimes, and this is not a diss towards teachers at all, darling teachers, because I know it's not your fault, but the curriculum saps the joy out of reading for some children. And
Mhm.
then, life gets in the way when you're an adult and you just, for whatever reason, you fall out of love with it. And I think being able to pair up someone with like a book that's just right for them to reignite that spark or to ignite it in the first place, that is a massive privilege, because we find out quite a lot about people when we do that. I will never just randomly go, oh, try that. I don't, we ask questions, and from like the youngest child to the oldest person that comes in, we try to find out about them and what they're interested in, and what it is they're looking for in a book. So everything that we recommend is for that person, and that, I think, that's wonderful, especially if you get someone coming back and they'll go, oh my god, I love that book, what else have you got? Then I'm like, tick, I've done my job. That's just lovely.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine how lovely that is. And like, I mean,
Yeah,
as a writer, if someone was inspired by my book, that would be the best feeling. So knowing there's people like you out there helping people find books that they're going to fall in love with, I just think it's amazing, isn't it? It's not
yeah,
You're not just leaving them there like on the shelf and anyone can just walk in. You're so passionate about what you do, and that
yeah,
really shows. And people just warm to you, and I know that you've recommended books to me before, and I've absolutely loved them. It's just you're just amazing at what you do, and I think that's a really lovely thing to say. Like, out of all the things that you could say, knowing that people are getting enjoyment out of what
yeah.
showing them, I think is just that's really really lovely.
I mean, that's the,
Um,
you don't go into book selling for for money
you
or for a
don't get into
decent
anything
pension.
to do with
I
writing
should have,
for money,
I should have
unfortunately.
stayed in. Yeah, I know. I think just the printers, they're the only people that make money. It's, you do it because you love it. I have never, and it's like 11 and a half years or something. There has never been one day, even when I felt really poorly, that I've thought, God, I've got to go to work today. I've never ever had that feeling.
Wow.
I mean, how lucky am I?
Yeah.
Really, that's amazing.
Yeah.
um yeah, and just that kind of the community that we've built up around us as well. If things like this, like, some of it sounds really silly, but we've got a lovely lady, and I've said this on an interview before, but not in this one. So, and her Christmas Eve tradition, because we're open on Christmas Eve, is to come in to hear our bell,
Oh,
because we've got a bell.
wow.
How nice is that?
That
I
is
mean, just,
so
and again, she's
nice.
someone who's now become a friend, and
Yeah.
that's lovely. Or we've got kids that, when they first start secondary school, they're told, if you're a little bit anxious or you're worried on your way home, go and see Natasha at Chicken and Frog and sit on the sofa and she'll phone me. Amazing. And not necessarily
Wow.
people that are friends, but just people that we know through the bookshop. And
Mhm.
that's it, isn't it? Then I've
Yeah.
done what I've set out to do, because I've created a safe space for people, and it's wonderful. Not just me, but Jim and Rosa and everyone else that's there, my dad, and it's just, yeah, it's lovely. It's such a privilege to be able to do things like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so lovely to hear. That's what that teachers are just saying that. And do you get there've obviously been children that have come in and just they
Yep.
feel, oh wow. I mean, I know that when that my eldest daughter, obviously she struggles a lot with anxiety, and she has learning disabilities and autism. When she gets really nervous about going to places, but she feels so comfortable when she's doing volunteering at yours. I mean, get her out of the house is a quite a feat, but when she's there, she absolutely loves it and she thrives. And she tells me so much what she's done when she's been there,
Oh,
and
Good.
she just feels so comfortable being with you and there. So I can
Oh,
imagine
that's
that for
lovely.
other children that who may be feeling worried, just knowing that they can come to you must be such a lovely feeling. And for
Yeah.
their parents as well, just to know that there's a people out there in the community that's just always going to be watching out for someone. There's a safe space for
Yeah.
people, and that's so important because it can be difficult out there, especially
Yeah.
for our youngsters. So
Oh God, I wouldn't want to be a child or a teenager again for anything.
no,
Especially now, I think it's so hard. I
yeah,
have so many pressures on them. Ugh.
yeah. I mean, I'm so glad that I didn't have like social media or anything. There was no such thing as a
No.
mobile phone when I was a teenager. So
Oh,
yeah, it's just that pressure, it was hard enough, let alone having that pressure to just always, oh, I don't even know how to explain it, but just that's to be out there all the time. Like it's hard, like as an adult, to do like social media, but we kind of grow into ourselves and mostly are quite comfortable being who we are. I mean, obviously there are, not everyone's always. I'm not. I do worry about stuff and how I come across and things like that. And I overthink a lot, but I'm also not a teenager that's more easily sort of influenced and stuff like
yeah,
that. And
yeah.
it's hard. It's really hard. But yeah, thank you for that because I think that's so important. And I know obviously with having a young child, I've got all this yet to come. So knowing there's people out there like you just make it a lot easier to think about.
Good.
So so with talking about we've spoke about the positive side. So what's hard? What's the challenges about being a bookseller at the moment? Because I know that in the world of publishing, it's a really, really difficult place. Is that having an effect on book selling?
Um, this is really difficult, and I've been asked this before. I mean, I think there are challenges in any job. Obviously, I suppose our main challenge as an independent, especially, is that we don't get the discounts that chains and online get. And then
Hmm.
for people who are not our regular customers that don't understand how it works, they don't understand why if the book says 7.99, that's what I'm selling it for.
Yeah,
Um, and it can be frustrating, I suppose. It's not difficult, but it's frustrating but that's because there's this kind of people have been sold this myth, and it's almost like you can feel people thinking, oh, she's being a bit greedy.
yeah,
And I'm quite honest with people now. At the beginning I used to get quite embarrassed about it, but now I'm pretty blunt, and I'm just like, well, and I've even shown people before, some but say our average discount on a book, when we buy a book in, we get a 42% discount. That's pretty crap,
hmm,
really. When you then think about my overheads, got to pay my staff, got to pay all my bills, I pay my taxes, unlike some. So there's all those things. And also, I have to sell things for profit, but some retailers and supermarkets are very much included in this, sell some titles as a loss leader. So I'm sure
yeah.
everyone knows
I've
what that is, but if you
recently
don't know
seen
what
a
that is,
video going round about a
yeah.
certain online place that
Yes.
does that.
I mean, they don't do it as much as they used to, but they do, and other places do it too. And what that basically means is that say you go into whatever shop, because it happens in bricks and mortar shops as well. You're going in for a weekly shop, and you happen to see, I don't know, the latest Julia Donaldson picture book for your kid, and they really, really want it, and you're like, no, I've not come in to buy books today, but it's only a fiver instead of seven
Yeah,
ninety nine. So you pop it in your basket. Now, the people that are selling that to you at £5 are either making nothing or sometimes, not often, but sometimes a bit of a loss. But it doesn't matter to them because that's not their main bread and butter. Their main bread and butter is the bread and butter. So
mm.
it's those things, and I can't compete with that, and I won't compete with that. And I have lost a couple of school orders that way,
Oh wow.
where they
But you think
were.
schools would have probably
Yeah, I
be
mean,
less likely to?
I'm quite feisty now with that, and I'll just say, well, schools are supposed to follow British values, and that's not following British values to me. I get it; their budgets are tight, but then
Yeah,
if I've sat for 2 days curating a book list for you, you can't do that when you just go online and shove stuff in a basket. So I think that's probably one of the biggest kind of challenges, I suppose. And there are issues. I mean, book prices are going up because paper's gone up. There have been issues in terms of supply, but that seems to be leveled out and sorted out now. And I think you just have to, there's no point in harping on to what there was. So like years ago, there was a netbook agreement. So if a book was £6.99, it was £6.99 everywhere. And that got scrapped. So I could, if I chose to, sell all of our books for half price. And there's no one to stop me doing that, which is why some other places do that. But you just kind of have to accept, well, okay, this is the playing field that I'm in. So what do I do? And what I would say is I've almost turned it into a positive, because I can't just rely on people going, I'm definitely going to get my books from Natasha. What else do I offer? And maybe, I don't know, because I've never done it before. I'd never been in retail before, but maybe I wouldn't offer all the other things that I offer if it was easier for me. But those things have brought me real richness. So like doing the support groups that we do for neurodiverse kids and for parents with autistic children, and I mean, those things are really close to my heart as well. And all the community events that we do with Becky from Ridgewell and Boreham and all that stuff, maybe I wouldn't have even thought about doing those things if just selling the books was enough and it was easy. So I try to look at it, it's actually made me a better person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I would. I don't know about better person. I think you're lovely, and this is, your heart is in it, and that's, that's why you do it a lot for that. You can see how much you enjoy it, but absolutely, if you was just running a business and you got your evenings at home and it was all chilled out and you didn't have to do things like this, you probably, I don't know, maybe wouldn't be able to do as much because you wouldn't have thought about that in the first place. But
No,
you love
exactly.
it, and
So yeah, I think it is a challenge, but it's not necessarily a negative. It's just one of those things that you just have to think more creatively. And I think it was the same with lockdown, really. I know that was so difficult for really everybody. It was not a fun time. Business wise, for me, it was actually incredibly good. I mean, I was exhausted by the end of it because we were doing story times on, I say we, I was doing story times online, all of our tuition went online, I was doing bookshop tours, I was delivering books locally like 2 days a week. I was just run ragged, really. But I adapted to make sure that I had something to go back to. And we actually had an incredibly good year, and people have remained loyal. So we picked up customers that we didn't have before that have stuck with us afterwards because we built that relationship. So I think you just, when you're thrown a curveball, you can either go, oh, this is really hard, it sucks, I can't do this, it's not fair. And I've had moments of that, right? Or you can go, all right, this is really hard, what am I going to do? Because I'm not giving this up. I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to go back. I teach, but I don't want to go back to classroom teaching.
Yeah.
That's not what I want to do. I want to do this until I can't anymore. Someone said to me the other day about like retiring. I don't want to retire. I'd be the worst retired person in the world. I might do slightly less hours, but I don't want to retire. I love what I do. So I'll stay there until someone cuts me out.
Oh wow! Oh, that's so good. I love that. That's just brilliant, isn't it? Because I mean, like I've said it already, but it does. It shows the minute you walk in there, you can see how much you just love being there. I love everyone that comes in, and
Yeah,
it's
meet
just
so many
amazing.
fun people, and
Yeah,
and you kind of like it's a really weird job, and I'm sure there are other ones. It's like being like a bartender or a hairdresser. You just find out everything about people. People tell you stuff. Honestly, sometimes I'm like, I'm not sure you should be telling me this. Again, it's a real
there's
privilege
cameras
that
in here.
people feel like that they can offload and tell you stuff, and
Yeah,
they feel comfortable, and it's so much more than just selling books, I guess. I think, we get lots of work experience people. And I think they always think, I get it from adults all the time. Oh, it must be so lovely to just be able to sit around and read all day. And I'm like, I don't know. Is it? I mean, it
you don't
is,
get time.
I do have times when I do that, obviously, if it's really quiet and I just go, I'm researching. Shh. But there's so much
Well,
more
yeah,
to
because
it.
you're doing your PhD as well at the same time as doing
Oh
all
my
the
God. Yeah, I know. I must be
all
mad.
that reading.
Yeah, too much reading. My brain's. Yeah, I did a lot of procrastinating today. It's mainly what I did. My daughter
Oh,
came in and said,
it's
"How much
Tuesday.
have you done
It's
today?" And I was
Tuesday.
like, "Well, I've done a
Tuesday's
lot of
your.
moving things." Yeah.
Oh. Yeah,
Madness.
because I walked past earlier and I was like, oh, I'll pop in and say hello. I mean, I always usually do if I pass anyway, and I'll say hello to Rosa or your dad or something. But I was like, I should pop in. I was like, I didn't have time, and I was like, I just waved, and I think I saw your dad just standing there. And I bet he thought, who's that?
Who's
It's
that?
just that strange girl was just waving at me again.
I
But yeah,
probably
because
thought
Tuesday's his
probably loved
PhD
that, to be honest.
day.
Yeah, Tuesday is PhD day.
Mhm.
Yeah, but that's also, I mean, that's come about because I was starting to get annoyed. So this is very long, convoluted. So when I was teaching, most of the school, I mean, I taught in mainstream, but mainstream these days obviously has a fair percentage of special needs children. And then I was behaviour support teacher for a while, and I've been a Senko and inclusion manager. And our Midley, Holly, is autistic. She always went to mainstream and stuff, and she's at uni now, and she's doing, well, she's just bloody awesome, really. But they're all great. But this has always been a big part of our lives. But the books, they're getting better. But I think, say, even 5 years ago, they just weren't that great, especially for younger children. Kind of explaining what autism is in an authentic way.
Mhm.
And to help that understanding and to be able to see yourself in books as well.
Yeah.
And I was starting to get really frustrated and annoyed. And I was like, and I keep on ranting at people about it. I'm like, what can I do about this? So I don't know why. I was obviously drunk. Not that I drink, but I sometimes think maybe I was sickly drunk and not realised it. Because I decided, I know what I'll do. I'll do a bit more research and then I'll apply to do a PhD. Because this is my thinking, that if I've got a PhD behind me, when I start to talk to publishers about it, they'll have to listen. So must be mad. So I'm looking at the representation of autism in picture books specifically. And there are lots of brilliant lists out there that you can look at. Even if you just Google it and put in picture books autism, you'll get like loads of lists of books. But the quality of those books is quite mixed, I would be fair to say. And some
Yeah.
of them are not that easy to get hold of anyway. So part of my research is kind of coming up with a list, but a big chunk of it has been working with children, neurotypical children and autistic children, sharing some of these books and asking them what they think and if they think they're valuable. And it's just been an amazing journey. It's been so
Yeah.
good. And it has definitely fed into what we're doing at the bookshops. We've always had those books in, but it's made them even more on the radar for us. We've now got we've got a space between the kids bit and the adults bit that was
Yeah.
just like a little corridor, and now it's our
That's the bit on the
neurodiversity.
side by the window, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like this really cool black and white section, and it's neurodiversity books. So we've probably always had, really, but they're in one place, so it's easy for people to access.
Mhm.
And just to start that conversation and get people thinking about it. And what's been really amazing about that section is that it isn't just parents and children who are neurodiverse, but it's parents and children who are neurotypical that want to find out more, maybe because they've got a friend who they've just found out is dyslexic, or their cousin's just been diagnosed with dyspraxia, or whatever it is, and they want
Mhm.
to understand it more. So that's been lovely, actually. And the quality of the books is getting better and better all the time. But
Yeah.
I'm picky about all the books that we have, but I'm particularly picky about those ones. So the
Yeah.
amount that I've seen and thought, oh, that looks interesting, and I've got it in and read it and gone, nope, and it just gets sent back. Right, I'm not putting that on the shelf. So if I don't believe in the book, then it doesn't stay.
Wow. I mean, I've sat in on a couple of sales meetings, and I know I could see how you would do that actually. But yeah, I think when I remember, like when Haley was younger, we was reading lots of picture books. I don't remember there being absolutely anything or any book that she would have been able to identify with, unfortunately. And I'm so glad that times are changing. because I think it's so important, and it would have been so important and so good for her to have been able to recognise herself in books.
Yeah.
But so good for other children to be reading these books and just actually just knowing about it as well, because like you said, it
Yeah.
isn't just for those people that are neurodiverse, it's for everybody. Like,
Absolutely.
and some people are neurodiverse and don't even know until they're older. I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't even know that I had ADHD until as an adult. Like, you don't know these things. It's just
Yeah.
what you think is this is how you do things. You think everybody does these things, but not everybody does do these things. And when you realise that when you find something out like that, it's a massive eye opener, and it's so helpful. I think to be able to feel more comfortable in yourself, to and I think for children, that is so important to be able to see themselves. And like I
Yeah.
said, I'm just glad that publishers and are actually noticing that and wanting that. I
Getting
mean, I
there.
think that kind of, well, for me, I mean, it leads me on to a question that it was a little bit further down in there, but like I think this is like quite a gap in the market that is currently being filled. So what else, or if you'd like to expand on that, what if there are any other gaps in the market at
Yeah.
the
I
moment?
mean,
I mean, in picture books, in chapter books, in any kind of children's sort of
yeah.
fiction or non-fiction.
I mean, I would say, although that the gap is being filled to an extent, it's still an issue. It's when you look
Yeah.
at representation, and I mean across like all different types of neurodivergence, gender, class, race, religion, it is still not reflective of the
Hmm.
society that we live in. So although there are more and there's a big push and people will be like, oh, isn't it amazing? We've got a list of books and there's like four four authors of colour. Well, big whoop. If you look at how many people there are, how many authors there are across the UK, is still not
Hmm.
it's still not there. So I think it's improving, and I do
Yeah.
believe that children's books up to like, including middle grade and YA are leading the way. I think they're much
Yeah.
better representation than adults books from what I've seen. Um,
Yeah.
but there's still a lot of work to be done. And so I mean, a while ago there was a massive push to have more girls represented, especially like in adventure stories and things like that. And that's happened, but it's almost gone a long way the other way. And now we've got boys coming in going, well, I don't want to read that.
Mm.
Where am I? So there's got to be a balance. So I think
Yeah.
there's a long way to go, and a lot of it, in terms of is that accessibility for authors to being an author is a very, very difficult job, right? Most authors have a day job, right? It's
Yeah.
rare that you're lucky enough to be an author and not have to do anything else. And if you're
Hmm.
looking at those sections of society that are vastly underrepresented, unfortunately for a lot of those sections of society, they cannot afford to go, do you know what? I'm gonna my husband earns a lot of money, or my partner earns a lot of money, or my family have got a lot of money. I'm going to have 6 months and I'm just going to see how it goes. And if you look at the publishing industry, and I know that you know this because you've seen it, it's pretty much white middle class girls, right?
Hmm.
Like, and they're lovely. Don't get me wrong. So I'm not dissing anyone. I'm so lucky. I work with some amazing people. That's the demographic, and that
Mm.
needs to shift from the ground up. So it's going, but it's not going enough. So there's publishing houses like Knights of who are amazing, and they do great job of representation. And there are other publishers that are definitely going, oh yeah, no, we need to actually sit up and take notice now. We need to do something. We've just got a long way to
Yeah.
go. So I think the gaps there's quite a few gaps. That's a
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely seeing that as an author. More opportunities are arising for all different people to be able to submit to publishers and things like that, whereas that wouldn't have been there before. And I think especially like a children's publisher like Nosy Crow, they don't
yeah,
accept unsolicited submissions. So if you've not got an agent, they generally won't accept anything directly from you. But every now and then they'll put out like you know an open
yeah,
week or
yeah.
a month or so, and just be directed at a
There's a
specific
few that do
demographic
that.
at that point. Yeah.
David Fickling books do that as well. They have, so they sometimes
Yeah.
there'll be a little window of opportunity. And don't get me wrong, I understand why they don't want to take unsolicited manuscripts, because they must get thousands. But that's a
Yeah.
massive barrier.
Well, I mean, they do,
Because
even
to
if
get an
they say they don't take them, they still get them. Like, people still
oh
try
yeah,
their luck with the hope that,
exactly. So
yeah,
but to have an agent, that's quite a privileged position, isn't it? To be able to get an agent, that's really difficult. So,
it's
and
really
obviously
difficult.
agents
Yeah.
do an amazing job, but there needs to be more in terms of accessibility to those groups of people that are just not getting that. They've got every right to
Yeah.
have their voices heard. It's how we work as a
Absolutely.
society to change that, so they can get their voices heard and we can hear their stories.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like, when I do like research and stuff for, I mean, not that I'm not researching agents or anything for myself, but for looking at, when I'm looking, because obviously, as you know, I want to get into publishing, so I'm doing lots of research and stuff. And most agents are specifically asking, and saying, we would really like to get more people in our books. And it's just, I think it's really good, and it's being recognised. There is an actual agency called the Good Literary Agency, who specifically only take people from underrepresented backgrounds on as their clients. And I think that's
Right.
really amazing.
Yeah.
Because, and I think generally the people that work there would also have these backgrounds as well. So um yeah, I mean, I do absolutely agree with everything that you said there. And I think, from, you know, to see that it is coming through as a bookseller, and what I'm seeing as an author as well, and we're both on the same page, it just shows that this is what's happening, and we do need more
Yeah.
more authors out there, um, from all different areas of life. I think it's just so important. I mean, I remember I'd wrote a picture book once, and I'd just mentioned about a girl coming down the stairs, and who was it that said it to me? I think it was, I was working with a, oh, I think it was when I was doing the Golden Egg Academy, and they said, just don't put stairs in there, because just think, some people don't have stairs. And I was like, I mean, I've lived in flats. I still live in local authority like housing, but you kind of, every time you think of a children's book and they're in a house, they're always lovely, big, massive houses, like with these big, lovely winding staircases, and most children don't live like
That's
this.
not life, is it?
You know, children in like council flats and stuff aren't seeing themselves in books either.
No.
It's like it's hard. So um but yeah, I think it kind of, again, this is another thing that kind of leads me on to the next question, because we spoke about the caps and what would be really important to have in a children's book. So what, in a children's book, I mean, and it can be in whatever sort of genre that you like, whether you're thinking picture books or anything, what do you think makes a really good or a great children's book?
Oh, it's so hard, because obviously it all comes down to taste and what you like. But I think the
Crikey,
main
it's so subjective, is what we
it
hear all the
is
time.
really difficult, I know, and it's not an easy. That's a really airy fairy answer, isn't it? I think the main thing is that whoever the characters are, whether they're people or animals or robots, there has to be something about them that the reader can connect with in some way, because children especially will connect with any character that they feel is believable. That could
Hmm.
be a roller skating unicorn, as long as
Hmm.
there's something about that character that they like. Oh, my friend's a bit like that, or my sister's a bit like that, or there's something about them. I think it comes down to that characterization has got to
Yeah,
be, even when it's full on fantasy, you've got to be able to believe in it. And
yeah,
and then I suppose the other side of it is, and no, it is very different, but the overall quality of the product has to be good enough for children. So we get sent lots and lots of books that people have self-published. There's nothing wrong with self-publishing, and there are some amazing books out there that have been self-published. So I'm not bashing self-publishing at all, but the quality has to be. If I'm trying to hand sell, and we do a lot of that, I can't hand sell a book to someone that is typeset in Comic Sans, that's been illustrated by your nephew because they're quite good at drawing, and has been stapled together and you can see through the pages. And I know that sounds really brutal and mean, but it's true.
do you actually get
If
ones
I've
that are
then
stapled
got,
together? Actually
yeah,
happen? Oh my goodness,
but then if
wow.
I've got a traditionally published book here, that's the same price, quite often cheaper actually. And I've got that one here. That could be the best story in the world. And they're honestly, some of them have been like, you read it, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. But the product, people have to buy into a product. You know, it's like, even
Yeah.
if you think about, like, I don't know, you're going out and about and you want a hot chocolate, you're going to go to a chain or a independent cafe that you know really well that's going to give you one that looks the business, aren't you? You want it to look, especially
The
now,
marshmallows and the cream.
it's
Yeah.
got to look good enough for your money.
Hmm.
And that I find really tricky because I feel awful saying to people, no, I can't stock it. But you know, then again, I don't take all traditionally published books either. I can't. I've only got a finite amount of space. So I think they're
Yeah.
the main things. Is that it's got to look like the real deal, which is a very
Yeah.
shallow thing to say, but it is true. But yeah,
But the thing is, it's not really shallow, is it? Because you're caring about the person that's coming in as well as it being their business model as well. People are going to come in and, like you said, they're going to look at one book and look at another. So whatever book they're looking at needs to stand against that one in a
yeah,
positive way as
yeah.
well.
I
They've
mean,
got to be
it's a
drawn to
brutal
that,
business.
and yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, I think the main thing really is that character is someone that they can root for, that they can believe in. It doesn't have to be a character they like. They
hmm
could really not like that. They could be a horrible character, but they've got to believe
yeah,
in that character in some way, and that's what makes a really good book, children's and adults. Actually, it's got to be so. Like one of the last adults books that I read was Lady Macbeth had, and this is terrible because I've forgotten to write down the author's name, and I'm really terrible with authors' names, which is not good
I
for my
don't know.
job.
I've not read it, so I don't know.
Um, it's it's a debut and it's amazing, and it's the backstory of Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, right? So
Hmm.
I mean, and I'm obsessed with Macbeth, so I really wanted it to be a good book, and my God, it is. But the mark of how brilliant the writing is that when you finish the book, you're like, none of those people are nice, right? They're all horrible. Macbeth is horrible. Lady Macbeth is horrible. None of the characters in it. You kind of root for them a little bit, but you wouldn't. None of them. You go, oh, I really feel sorry for them. They've had a really bad run. Honestly, I finished the book and I was like, what a bunch of horrible people. But I
Bit
was,
like Succession, I think, but for as a book,
yeah,
because
but
none
I
of them
was
are nice.
hooked. It's so beautifully written. The characters are so well rounded and so well crafted that you believe in them, and that is
Yeah,
what makes a good book
yeah,
at any level. From a 32-page picture book that's got hardly any text to this, which is honestly, it's like the Bible. It's massive. I'm also quite a lazy reader, which is a terrible admission for a bookseller. But quite if it's really big, I'm like, oh, I don't know. But because it was because it was about Macbeth, and I love it. Also, it has got a very nice spread. It's very pretty. I was like, yeah, I want to read it. And I love a spread. And
yeah,
it was amazing. But it was amazing, really, because the characters were all hateful, but I cared about them.
yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah.
Brilliant writing.
Oh.
Couldn't do that in a million years. Genius.
And that is something that we learn as well. So when we do like any course or working with someone, that is such an important thing to make your characters relatable and to make them someone believe in them enough to want them to succeed. And whether or not that's in a positive way or negative way, whether they're trying to do something that isn't right, if we can relate to them in some way, we're going to be rooting for them to get what they want, whether it's
Yeah.
something that they really shouldn't or whatever.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, it's weird. It's clever.
yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think of any books recently that I've read that it wasn't a very nice. Not I can't think of anything like as in novel. I mean, like
I think they're
there
rare.
was I think it was yeah, yeah. There's so I like for a picture book. The first one that comes to mind was Catherine Emmett's The Pet, with the
Yeah.
boy that is just so spoiled, and I want a pet, and you just like you can't put that down because you just want to find out what happens to
Yeah.
this boy, and he does get his
Yeah.
comeuppance, so we're like
Lovely.
yes, but yeah,
Well done, Catherine. Yeah.
yeah, that was great. But yeah, I think I love that because I think that's so important. And for people that are watching and writing, just having, just somebody else say this to us just will make you go, but just think back when you're writing that, think back, what is this character oh, can you relate to this character? Or is this character's got no, because they need flaws
Oh
as well. They've
yeah.
got to have something that, that if we had, there was like a absolutely
Oh,
perfect character,
boring.
we would hate that character. We don't, even if they're the loveliest
Oh,
people, we'd
boring.
probably hate them
I don't
even
want to
more.
know about that.
So like, yeah, they've got to be just someone with anyone. There is someone that is them in your life or somewhere else out
Yeah.
there. But yeah, no, that was great. So you've just finished that book,
Yeah,
have
well, it was
you?
a little while ago. I loved it,
Was that right?
but I just, yeah, absolutely, I just loved it because it's just, yeah, it's really gritty and they're horrible and yeah, loved it.
Oh, I'm gonna have to give it a go, even though you said it's really long, and I'm a
It
bit
is
like you.
long,
I'm
but
like,
it's
oh
worth
God,
it.
that's really long.
It's a quick
Yeah.
read, if that
Okay.
makes. It's kind of a quick read. She's just really clever.
Okay.
She kind of weaves in like quotes and bits from the play, and she's done her historical research really well because they were real people, Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, and
Yeah.
it's just, oh, it's a work of art. I love it. I'd reread it. That's always a mark for me. If I'd read it again, then I'm right there. That's a cracker.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. So, what are you reading at the moment? Have you started reading
So,
something else, or have you got something on your
on my
TBR?
TBR list,
What is it? To be read?
my to be read pile is disgusting. The last children's book that I read was a book called Away with Words by Sophie Cameron, and that is absolutely
Okay.
beautiful. So it's magical realism. Um,
Oh, I love a bit of
Me
magical.
too.
I'm not the best at reading fantasy, but I
It's
like a bit of
really quick.
magical
It's a
realism.
weird one actually because it's actually really thin,
Mm.
but not necessarily a quick read, which is odd because I think it's because it's so beautiful. So, it's about a girl called Gala who moves from Spain to Scotland, and with her dad to move in with her dad's boyfriend. And when she starts school, she's got hardly any English. So for the first couple of chapters, I didn't realise, maybe because I'm a bit thick, but we did do it at book club and other people were the same as me. So I was like, okay, I'm not that stupid. Basically, she sees everything that you say, the words physically come out of your mouth in different colours and shapes and like they're jagged if you're angry and all those things. And then they fall to the floor and they get swept away. But that's actually part of this world that Sophie Cameron has amazingly crafted. And you believe it.
Wow.
It's just within a couple of chapters, you're
Yeah.
like, oh, this is everyone. I thought it was just Gala that saw that, but actually everyone sees it. And it's about her, and she makes a friend, I think her name's Natalie, who has selective mutism at school. So she won't talk when she's at school. And this girl collects people's words and kind of writes her own stories and poetry using other people's words. It's beautiful. It's
Wow.
just, I've never read anything like it, and it made me
Yeah.
cry. It made me laugh. It's so beautiful. So it's kind of top end of middle grade, just because there's some issues in
Yeah.
there about bullying and stuff like that. Oh my god! And again, I'd reread that.
Is that what is classed as like tween now? Like in
Yeah, I mean,
between middle
I
grade
think
and
like a
teen
9, 10-year-old could
or
definitely
upper
read it if they
engine?
were a good, sophisticated reader. But equally, a 49-year-old read it and really enjoyed it. So it's just, it's stunning and really clever.
It sounds
Yeah, it's
gorgeous. Yeah.
amazing. So I've just finished
Oh, I'm
that.
going to put that on my list now. So
So you
I've
definitely
written it
recommend that
down.
one.
I'm like, right, that sounds
And the
great.
next children's book that I'm reading, which I'm very excited about, is Arcspire by Jamie Lidler. So Jamie is the
Okay.
author of Frostheart, and
Oh yeah.
he's he's actually disgustingly talented because he is an amazing illustrator and an amazing author. And he's a bit of a power couple. So I don't know if you know this. So he is married to Laura Ellen Anderson. So they're like this godlike couple of creativity. It's disgusting. And they're both very lovely too. So he's got this new book that's just come
Yeah.
out called Arcspire, which it's been described as kind of Mortal Engines meets Lockwood and Co. So it's a real
Oh,
mashup of kind of like feels quite sci-fi, but it's got a lot of magic in it, quite a lot of humour and mystery. The illustrations throughout it are beautiful. I mean, just stunning. So you, like me, are a tattooed lady. I guarantee you that if you look through this
hmm,
book, you'd be like, oh, that'd look nice on my arm.
I get that.
That that would look. It's stunning, and it's got a map. Any book with a map is a winner for me. It's beautiful. So it's the beginning. I think there's going to be
Yeah, I love. Oh, I love opening them pages to a
oh
map.
the
That is just
best.
yeah.
Um,
Just imagining being in that
yeah,
world. Yeah.
and so I've just started reading that, and it is as I expected it to be. stunning. It's got me, and it's just a thing of beauty. And I can't remember. It's the beginning of a series, and I'm really sorry, Jamie, but I can't remember how many there are. I think it's like 4 or 5 there are going to be for each kind of section of this society that he's created. So there's particular people in the society that can wield magic, and no one else is allowed to. So it's gorgeous, lovely, lovely. So I haven't got an adults book on the go at the moment because I really want to give my all to Artspire, and then I'll have a think. But we've got an event tomorrow with Sarah Hillary and Fiona Cummings, who are both write really gritty psychological thrillers, and their books have just come in. So they are on they've shuffled to the top of my to be read pile. That's what I do. I just shuffle. I think I'm all right, and then something else comes in. And I'm like, oh yeah, no,
mine's in no order.
It's like a terrible game of Jenga where I'm like, well, now what am I going to do now? Yeah. Loads of stuff.
I sometimes find I've bought a book and I've already bought it, and I'm like, so mine. I end up like I've got 2 of them. It's like I'm playing Snap right now. But oh no, this has been great. I've just realised we've gone over the hour, which is fine. It's just then when I upload it on Instagram, it doesn't let me do longer than an hour. So the end will go, but everyone can watch it on YouTube anyway. So but it's been really, I'm so glad that you've come on. It's been really lovely to chat to you. I mean, obviously we chat all the time, but I don't ever just ask you these sorts of questions like one after the other. But
it's been lovely. It's been so nice. And it's been so exciting to watch your journey as well. It's been brilliant. So proud of you.
Thank you.
Can't wait
thank you so much.
I
remember when I signed with my agent and I went out for dinner that night and then went to watch a signing with Bonnie Garmus in Waterstones. It was like the day you get signed and you meet Bonnie Garmus and you have a lovely dinner and you tell your favourite person out there in your favourite bookshop that you signed with an agent. It was just an amazing day. It was like, that was so lovely. And I'm not the most huggy person, but you gave me a hug. And that was
the thing is, I do hugs, so kind of it just happens. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I was quite happy to have a hug that day. It was like, but generally I'll never know if I'm like, do I go for a hug?
Oh yeah, always with me.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, thank you so much, Tasha. It's been so lovely to chat to you. And hopefully we'll have another one at some point and see what else is going on at Chicken and Frog. I've not even got to ask you what's going on, what other events you've got. But you have mentioned
a look on the website.
But I'll advertise and I'll show stuff around when you put it out there. But thank you so much. And no doubt I will pop in very soon.
Lovely, can't wait.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you later. Bye. It was so great to chat to Tasha. Like I said, I see her so much. So just having her on Kidlit Live was really, really amazing. Just quickly, because I have got a couple of minutes over. Next week, I have 2 people joining me. So on Thursday, the 27th, I'm joined by a friend and writer, Laura Cooney, and she has had so many publications out there with her poems and stories. So I'm really excited to chat to her. And then on Sunday the 30th, which I think is going to be a bit early. I need to double check actually. I've put 7 to 8, but I think I might have said to Will it's 8. I will have Will Hamilton Davies, and he is the author of The Shrew with the Flu. And that is a picture book, and I can't wait to chat to him. He is like amazing, like he's an amazing poet, and he's such a lovely person. I met him at the I Am Writing Festival recently, and we've done some like writing tasks, and he just like blew everyone away. You can just write something quickly like that. So I'm really excited to chat to both Laura and Will next week. So do tune in. I'll put everything out there so you can see. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for watching for those that catch up, and I'll see you soon.